Okay, our next speaker is Yaser Maddahi. He is the founder, president, and CEO of Tactile Robotics. This is probably we're switching gears quite a bit again, in as much as we are returning back to the medical device field very directly. And of particular interest to this audience is a set of sensorized gloves called the iManus. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, for upper limb hand rehabilitation. This is a fairly new product, I believe, and it is evolving quickly and moving fast. And so I believe that Yaser is going to tell us a little bit about that and some of the other things that he has going on in his company, Tactile Robotics. And Yaser, I forgot to say, Steve was coming from Florida. He mentioned that himself. I believe Yaser is coming from Manitoba. So we have quite the range of distances from our speakers here. We're all over the place. So the floor is yours, Yaser, and you can share screen for slides and your video.
Sure, thank you very much. I think this is one of the benefits that we experienced during COVID-19. So remote conferences and stay in touch, long distances. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here today to talk about our rehab technology. Yes, you are right. It's called iManus. We have designed this technology to be able to help both clinicians and the patients to work in a remote fashion, to be able to have a more successful to recovery the patients for upper limb rehabilitation. So an overview of the product is that I represent Tactile Robotics. I'm not a business person. I'm a researcher. I'm an engineer. I have a PhD and postdoc in engineering, and I'm not a rehab expert. But we have like university prof rehab scientists here. We are benefiting from their feedback, their advice. If there is any question, I can ask them and answer later. Tactile Robotics is the creator of iManus. We are a Canadian company, or we are a Manitoban company. We developed this product in Manitoba, and we saw this opportunity to increase the effectiveness of hand rehab services. I have a movie I want to show. It's like 3-4 minute movie. But before that, just 2 sentences. This product, iManus, can allow patients to perform a wide range of rehab programs that are best suited to help them recover. Everything is remote based. So technically, we started this project in 2019, 2 years ago. And last year, when COVID hit, we changed the functionality of the products. So everything is remote based now. So we have a patient platform, we have a therapist software or platform, and they can communicate to each other. They can send information of our sensorized glove, audio, video, and any feedback. They can share the results with other clinicians as well. So there are many opportunities in the software. So let me just share the video. Hopefully. Can you hear the sound? Tactile Robotics was established in 2018 and is actively working in the area of medical Internet of Things. Tactile Robotics is very proud of developing several medical products in dentistry, rehabilitation, physiotherapy, medicine, and sports medicine. We also help companies looking to upgrade themselves with smart technologies. This pandemic of COVID-19 requires everyone to maintain enough social distancing, and it has been quite challenging for professionals of many industries to operate in normal scenarios. Humanity needs to adapt very quickly and learn to live with this new normal. Tactile Robotics has developed multiple products that help to expedite the process of this adoption, from educating students to the treatment of patients. One of the latest products of Tactile Robotics is called iMenace, that is a set of compact and portable smart gloves that is used for hand rehabilitation of stroke patients.
iManus technology emerged from 3 years research and development that focused on finding a better way to deliver remote hand rehabilitation to stroke patients via easy-to-use technology. Our hope was not only to help patients in big cities, but also those living in rural areas and the indigenous populations living in remote communities. As the world faces restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic, our work has become even more compelling and urgent. We offer the first of its kind hand telerehabilitation platform that allows monitoring progress based on meaningful performance indicators. The smart gloves reliably measure hand and fingers range of motion and hand tremor based on the unimpaired hand data. This data adds to the subjective evaluation therapists currently do and enables the therapist to personalize the program based on numbers they can show and share with their patient. We kept simplicity in mind throughout the developments. We wanted the smart gloves to be intuitive for therapists and patients. We also wanted the users to be able to keep track of all tasks, which is extremely important for measuring progress. This allows the therapist to intervene quickly if needed, which saves time and keeps the patients motivated. We developed a catalog of video-based hand rehabilitation tasks so that the therapist can customize programs to meet every patient's needs. The therapist can also add their own content with only a few modules. The therapist and patients can use our platform in two ways: synchronously by video conference to use our platform, or asynchronously if the therapist's presence is not really needed. We aim to provide access to hand rehabilitation care to populations who otherwise have no access. We also aim to provide clinicians with continuous quantitative data so they can better serve their patients. I believe data-driven decisions and personalized care are the two pillars of future rehab. With our smart gloves, we are already there. We are bringing many disciplines together at the intersection between rehabilitation and engineering. As a team, we are scientists, clinicians, engineers, and computer scientists, all passionate about delivering high-end, user-centered solutions. I believe this technology is now ready to be tested and implemented with patients to serve so many Canadians waiting for such technology to get serviced in their communities. Je crois que cette technologie est maintenant prête à être testée auprès de patients en quête de recevoir des services de santé dans leur communauté.
So let me share the PowerPoint file again. This was an in-house made video. We had to prepare this in 2 days. For the, we have been pre-qualified for ISC testing S3 by the federal government, and we are approaching government agencies to find some place actually to test our service. We had to make this video in 2 days to meet the deadline. That's why it's not a professional video, and the link on the YouTube, it's a private link. So the opportunities about this platform is very visible and understandable during this COVID-19 pandemic. So patients have to just maintain social distancing, even the clinicians, and it's difficult for most of them to go to hospitals, healthcare facilities, but using this platform, they can stay home, they can have communication with the therapists, and therapists can monitor the video, which is like qualitative study, and the data coming from the sensors with more than 80 KPIs, which is quantitative study of the patient. If something is wrong, the clinician can send some feedback to the patient, and the patient can just fix the problem and do the exercise again, submit the practice, and the therapist can actually continue treatment. Another application which is very, very useful for a white country like Canada is the application is delivering high quality rehab services for remote communities, for First Nation communities. So then no one needs to come to the city, to big cities to see a clinicians. They can stay there. They can do the practices for the hand rehabilitation, and then they can send the data, receive feedback from the clinician, and it could be done in a bilateral manner. And the effectiveness of the treatment would increase. The reason is that normally what we have in traditional clinics is just working. The therapists just play with the hand. They just try to tell the patient what to do and how to do. And there is no signal of the movement, how the angles are, how the tremor is, those KPIs. But with this device, we are able to provide those measurable KPIs. What are the issues that we now have? The first one, as I mentioned, most of patients, they do not have a lot of options to get treated. And they have to go to the facilities to visit a clinician in their office, which is very difficult, especially during current pandemic. And the data collected, those are just audio and video when you are doing face-to-face treatment with the patient. Now we are adding Internet of Things or IoT to this service, to this kind of treatment. And communication is very important between the clinician and the patient. You know, everyone likes to use the cell phone. Even you prefer to watch a TV, to read like news on the cell. We are all addicted, and this is a good way to ask the patients who are not normally patient to do the practice. They just become frustrated. They just want to get rid of the session, stop treatment. So they can use the cell phone and they can play with the cell phone with different options that we have considered in the program, different badges that you can give to the patient, or first milestone, second milestone. And that is kind of motivative for the patients. And another point is that you have your clinician, your therapist, your doctor 24/7 available. So you are busy in the morning, you want to do your treatment, your practice at night, go ahead. All the platform, all the data there are on the cloud. You can download them and you can work on them. And you can submit your feedback right away to the clinician. So you will have a clinician and you can have the clinician's hand on your hand to tell you what to do using this system. Our solution is a set of smart gloves. There are like embedded sensors, there are wireless modules, there are IMU sensors embedded in the glove, and the patient can put on the glove, and the patient can start, as you saw, the application and start practicing, submit the results, the video and the sensor data to the clinician. And the clinician has a desktop, which is the patient manager desktop. And they can go click on the patient's name, see the process, what the patient has done so far, and what the patient is supposed to do. So what are the features? We have more than 80 KPIs, and all of these KPIs, we started communicating actually with the clinicians, with therapists, so they are like useful KPIs. As Steve mentioned, we we didn't try here to define a problem and say that, oh, this is our solution to that problem. We identified the real end user problem, and then we propose this platform as a solution to that problem. So there are two options for the clinician. The clinician can provide support in real-time fashion or offline, so they can use it in their own timing. And there is a scoring tool. So the progress, there are challenges defined which are motivative, and the progress that each patient should go through, they get badges and they can be motivated to do that. So this is not a boring rehab session and the patient wants to just skip it. It's kind of game plus real rehabilitation. And this is our third product. The other two products we have commercialized, which is in dentistry, which is in sports medicine. And this one, as similar to the other ones, we didn't use virtual reality. We didn't use augmented reality because we believe that the patient needs the confidence to go through the treatment. We don't want to take them to virtual reality environment to tell them, oh, imagine there is an object here, you have to push this object from place A to place B. No, as you saw, the user there used the ball, a blue ball. Whatever you have at your home, you can use those objects to do the exercises, which is very close to the real life. And user benefits, so this is the view of the uh, clinicians software, so they can see some graphs, some KPIs, the video of the patient as well. And this is the prototype of the smart glove. We are hoping to take it to demo stage and do some more to testing as well, to do some more R&D. So the benefits for the patients are they can work at home, at their cottage, anywhere that they like, as long as they have or they will have access to internet. They can schedule the tasks, the sessions themselves, so they don't need to wait for clinician to tell them when do this task or how to do or what to do. They can just log into the software and see what the assignment is. And they can have a remote access to the clinician, which is much more comfortable and faster, especially during these days. And for clinician, in addition to qualitative data, which is the audiovisual feedback, they can have some numbers. They can actually quantify the performance, the task, which would help. And if they want to see how if they want to review the patient's performance, they can rewatch the practice. How was the task? They can make new comments as well. Or they can go back to previous practices and see how the performance was. Was there any learning curve or not? And the communication channel, when you're using texting, when you're using just recording video, sending to the patients, that would be more frequent and that would be less hassle for the clinician and the patient, both of them. So let's have a quick comparison between our technology, traditional rehabilitation, and VR rehabilitation. For example, for data feedback, what we have, we collect both quantitative, which is sensors and KPIs, the data coming from sensors, and qualitative, which is audio and video. For traditional rehabilitation, there is no sensor. So you just see and you just tell the patient what to do based on what you observe at that time. In VR rehabilitation, you just have quantitative, not qualitative motion. Based on what? Based on what a computer defines for you, not a real clinician. Remote use compared to traditional, iManus is able to do remote therapy. We have full sensory feedback. practice anytime, which is one of the features that we have, allows for social distancing, for iManus and VR technology. For both of them, this is possible. And there is actually, how can you communicate with the clinician? In traditional and iManus technology, in both of them, you are able to do that easily. Another application, as I mentioned, is remote communities. For Canada, there are many places that this technology could be used. And all people, all residents of those communities can have high quality access to rehab services. They don't need to travel to the city, and this can lower the cost. And this can save for the government, save some money for the government. And they can, they have to travel. Most of remote communities, they do not have certified clinicians to do rehab services there. And applications could be in rehabilitation, in physiotherapy. We are trying to use it for professional athletes when they are injured, when they need to do some hand rehabilitation. It could be used in remote communities. It could be used in other countries as well. In the recent proposal for testing a stream for ISC, we contacted International Canada Space Agency to have a set up this technology in International Space Station to do rehab therapy for astronauts up there. So the clinician is on the Earth, so they can communicate with the clinician to do rehab therapy as well. I mean, from here, from city to remote communities, to other countries, to International Space Station, and hopefully Moon and Mars. I would like to thank all of our funders and collaborators who helped us to go through this process without raising and giving up any equity. So we appreciate their support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yaser. That was wonderful. And we have several questions in the chat. I am going to use host prerogative though, and I'm going to ask the first question. And then I'm actually going to take the last question because these are two business related questions, and then the others are science related to a certain extent. The first question is, one of the hardest elements of this type of device and developing it is convincing end users and clinicians to integrate this into their workflow. And you already have a couple of devices out on the market, like you said, and this the iManus is new. So what kind of strategies do you use for clinician and so marketing at the clinician level, let's say, and marketing at the end user level? How do you convince people that this is something that they need to change and take up?
Okay, that's a great question. That is, I had this answer like 3-4 years ago when I started Tactile Robotics for our dental platform. I was watching Shark Tank, and there was a platform. It was a stroller. It had 7 patents granted, not pending, and no one invested on that. The reason was that there was cool technology in terms of engineering. I could understand that as an engineer, but the market wasn't adopting this technology. What we did for all of our projects, as you see, we have many colleges, we have like different people who are experts in the field. What we do when we want to start the project, first, primary and secondary market search by a third party. This is normally supported by IRAP, and we appreciate that. So they pay for that. And secondly, what we do from the day one, we get several clinicians or dentists involved in our project. So if we are going wrong, they just correct us. They tell us what to do, how to do. So when they feel that they are part of this journey, they would adopt the technology. And it's not a reason that everyone will accept, because they like to use their own procedures, their own protocols. I mean, this is mostly based on experience, But the recent paper that our collaborators at the University of Manitoba submitted, it shows that 78% of clinicians in the US and Canada, it was among, I guess, 400, 500 participants, they would use this technology. Because what we do, we are not changing the way they are doing. We are enhancing the traditional treatment.
Okay, so I guess
we shouldn't say, oh, as engineer, I know better than you. That is not true. We should say, okay, you are doing great. Let's make it greater. That's it.
so. That's excellent. And I have a follow-up question from Craig Chapman, and I'm actually going to paraphrase this a little bit for Craig. So you identified that, especially in the times of the pandemic and COVID, there's a huge need for rehabilitation at distance, right? And especially in remote communities. And consequently, this is a market with other contenders. There are other similar types of potential, like sensor-based devices and telerehab. How do you enter a market that has competition like this with the device? How do you market yourselves in a space where there is competition? Because that can be important, for sure.
Exactly. I have two answers to this question. First of all, we learned a lesson in this pandemic. Canada learned a lesson. The government is supporting Canadian products. We noticed that we are very dependent on international products, from mask to sanitizer to everything, right? The government is supporting Canadian products, and there is no Canadian products now that does the same functions. That's a good thing for us. And we have already filed the patent on that to just protect that. We approach the government, and health system in Canada is like governmental system, provincial system. So they prefer to work with a Canadian company than an American company, for example, right? And this is something. Another point is that as a small company, we are not a big company. As a small company, we have a benefit to reduce our costs. And the price that we are offering this platform is 1/3 of our competitors who do not provide remote communication. What they have, they just sell a sensorized glove similar to this, and they send it home, and the patients should play with like some games in virtual reality, some games, that's it. But the philosophy behind this that is coming from university profs is different, working from physical objects, no virtual reality, and remote rehabilitation. As far as we know, as far as we have update on our market research, there is no technology out there that does all of the functions that this iManus does actually.
Excellent. We have time for one more question, and I'm going from bottom up, so I'll go with Farnaz Kubasi. Sorry. Have you done clinical experiments to determine the treatment effect of the glove? So how can the device prescribe proper exercises without a first initial assessment by a rehab therapist? Because there's some, and he follows up with the therapist's touch and manual therapy can be pretended by the device. Like, is it able to emulate the touch and therapy on that initial visit?
Okay.
So I guess the question is there an initial, usually with any type of therapeutic intervention, there's an initial assessment of ability and range of motion and all these types of things. How, when you're sending a glove or a device to a remote community, how do you take that into account without the first assessment? Or is that do they require a first assessment before receiving the glove?
Okay, so again, on two aspects. On engineering side, the glove is automatically can be calibrated actually. and there is no need to set up everything for the glove. If you are going to send it to the patient, so the therapist and we and the patient, they are ensured that it provides perfect, not perfect, I wouldn't say, accurate data and measurements. And in terms of clinical trials, we have ethics approval at the University of Manitoba. We got it 2 years ago. We have renewed that year by year. We have tested this in a lab setting, not clinical setting, but now we are taking this to the hospital, and we actually extended the scope of the approval to take it to the hospital. We are negotiating with several places in Alberta, University of Alberta, and actually Manitoba here. So it is not technically done, but we are about to do the clinical testing and trial.